Hi friends, in this part we are going to look into conductors or metals. So a perfect conductor has unlimited supply of free charges. And the basic electrostatic properties of ideal conductors are: first, that the electric field is zero inside the conductor. Second, the charge density inside the conductor is zero. So any charge which is there will be residing on the surface. Therefore, the charges will be in the form of surface charge sigma. Conductors are equipotential surfaces and the electric field is perpendicular to the surface just outside the conductor. Let's say we have an uncharged conductor and we bring a positive charge Q near it. So then induced charges will be formed. Charges will be induced on the surface of the conductor where negative charges will be attracted towards this positive charge and the positive charges will be induced on the opposite side of this conductor. Even though the charges are different, the potential at all the points will be same. Let's say we have a cavity inside a conductor. So this is a conductor, an entire three-dimensional ball type thing, and there is a cavity, means inside it is empty here. Now let's say we place a positive charge plus Q at the center here. So the electric field inside in this region will be non-zero. Electric field in this region will be 0, and again electric field outside this region will be non-zero. Why? Because of this plus charge Q, negative charges will be induced inside here, and because of negative charges here, positive charges will be induced on this surface here. The electric field outside will be non-zero, the electric field inside will be non-zero, but electric field inside the region of the conductor will be 0. Now let's say we have a non-conducting spherical shell and we do not put any sort of there is only volume charge density in this region and there is no charge present inside this region. Let this radius be A and let this radius be B. So for r less than A, electric field will be 0 because there are no charges in this region. For r which will lie between A to B, electric field will be non-zero, and for r greater than B also electric field will be non-zero. But if we have a conducting shell, so same thing, same radius A, same radius B, and let's say we place a charge Q here. So for r less than A, electric field will be non-zero. Between A to B, that in this region, that is A less than R less than B, electric field will be 0, and for R greater than B also electric field will be non-zero. So you can see the difference here. This is a non-conducting spherical shell and this is a conducting spherical shell. So for non-conducting, in this part also we are having electric field, but for conducting in this part we do not have any electric field. Now let's say we are having 3 conducting spherical shells, 1, 2, and this is the third one. This radius is, let's say, A, this radius is B, and this radius is C. These are conducting spherical shells. Let the total charge residing on this surface be QA, the total charge on this surface be QB, and the total charge on this outer surface be QC. So how do we find the potential at points A, B and C? Here potential inside and on the surface is same. Therefore, let's say find at potential at point A, that will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Due to this QA, the potential at point A will be QA at a distance A, plus due to this QB, the potential will be QB upon B. Why did I write B? because the potential inside, that is because of QB, the potential inside and on will be same. Therefore, due to QB, the potential at A will be QB upon B, and same thing, potential at C will be QC upon C. Let's find the potential at point B. That will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Due to QA, the distance here is, because now this point B is outside this region QA. So now here we'll have QA upon the distance, this distance which is B, plus same thing QB upon B plus QC upon C, because for QC point B is inside the surface. And potential at point C will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught QA upon C, because for QA the distance here is total C, QB upon C, for QB also the distance is C, plus QC upon C. Now we are going to look into the method of images. Let's say we have a plus Q charge at a distance d above an infinite grounded conducting plane. It is grounded conducting plane, so the potential at this plane is 0. We have to find the potential in the region above the plane. Let's take a point P, and let's say we have to find the potential at point P with coordinates x, y and z. That is, we have to solve the Poisson's equation del squared V is equal to minus rho upon epsilon naught. That is, find the potential at point P due to the charge Q with the boundary conditions. First is that potential will be 0 at z equals to 0. Sorry about the hiccups. And the potential will tend to 0, because we know the potential is 0 at this point z equals to 0, and the second boundary condition is the potential will tend to 0 as the point P will move far away from the charge. That is, as this x squared plus y squared plus z squared will be much greater than d square. To do this, we'll simplify our problem and consider a second configuration with a plus q charge at a distance d above the origin and a minus q charge at a distance same d below the origin without the conducting plane. And we'll consider the same point P with coordinates x, y and z here. Now we will find the potential at P due to this configuration, and that potential comes out to be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q upon root of x squared, because the distance of this point between, that is distance between q and p, q square x squared plus y squared plus z minus d the whole square minus q upon root of x squared plus y squared plus z plus d the whole square. This is the distance between the point D, distance D and P. So all I did here is I changed this configuration into this one, and I found the potential at the same point P due to the second configuration. So how can I say that this potential which I found for this configuration is also the potential for this configuration? That can be confirmed by the corollary of the first uniqueness theorem, which states that the potential V is uniquely determined if two conditions. First, the charge density throughout the region is specified and the value of V on the boundaries is also specified. So the first case, that is charge density in this region, is specified and it is same for both the cases. And let's see about the potential value of potential on the boundaries. In this condition, the boundary conditions were V equals to 0 at z equals to 0 and V tends to 0 as the point P moves very far away from this charge. Now let's see that this Vp satisfies these two conditions or not. Here when we put z equals to 0, first condition, here when we put z equals to 0, with the last terms will be d square and then d square here also. So this term and this term will minus out, and then we'll have Vp is equal to 0 at z equals to 0. And the second boundary condition is, as v will tend to 0 as this value will be much greater than d square, and that is also true. So we'll have here Vp will tend to 0 as this point P will move very far away from the charge. Therefore, we can see that this potential also satisfies both of these boundary conditions. And that's it. Here we have it. The beauty of the uniqueness theorem, that this potential is the correct potential for this configuration also. So this new charge which we got is known as the image charge, but you have to remember that you cannot put the image charge in the same region in which you are finding the potential. That is, you cannot put minus q at z greater than 0, because we are finding potential at points z greater than 0. Because if you do that, then the charge density, this rho will change, and if rho changes, then this V value will be wrong. So the electric field at this point P or that point, whichever point P, will be equal to EP will be equal to minus del Vp, and this comes out to be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. We'll have x hat plus y hat plus z minus d z hat divided by x squared plus y squared plus z minus d the whole raised to 3 by 2 minus x hat plus y hat plus z minus d z hat divided by x square plus y square plus z minus d the whole raised to 3 by 2. Then the surface charge sigma, which will be induced on this conductor, will be found by using the boundary condition. So you'll have only del B upon del Z at Z equals to 0 will be equal to minus sigma epsilon naught. Take this potential and do the differentiation and apply the boundary condition at the boundary Z equals to 0. So you'll get sigma is equal to minus qd upon 2 pi x squared plus y squared plus d squared the whole raised to 3 by 2. Thus the total charge which will be induced on this q will be equal to integration sigma dA, and that comes out to be minus q. That's expected, right? Because if you have charge q here, then on the conductor charge minus q will be induced. So we can say that since this charge here on this surface minus q is induced, we can say that this q will be attracted towards the plane because of the negatively induced charge on the surface of the conductor. Now we can calculate the force of attraction. The force of attraction will be equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught minus q squared upon distance will be here 2d the whole square in the direction z hat. The reason here I used 2d is because the potential we saw in both the configuration was same. Therefore, the electric field will also be same in both the configuration, and so will be the force. Therefore, I found force using the second configuration, which is also same for the first configuration. But this case is not true when we are going to find the work or the potential energy, because for first configuration here, the work done or potential energy, let's call this W1, will be minus 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q squared upon 4d. And for the second configuration here, W2 will be equal to minus 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q squared upon 2d. So why is this? This is the actual work which is for this case. So this is the actual work. So why is this actual work half of this second configuration? Because we know work done is the amount of work which is required to assemble the system, and the potential energy is the amount of energy which is stored in that configuration, right? So in our original configuration, where we have only one charge q and a conducting plane, we move only q towards the conductor and the work done is W1, because on this plate potential is 0, so the work done in moving this is equal to 0. Therefore, only work done is because of this charge is only due to the charge q. But in the second case, where we are having two charges plus q and minus q, so we need to do work on both of these point charges. Therefore, the work done here at W2 will be equal to twice of W1. Therefore, work done W1 is equal to half of W2. Next case is, what if this charge plus Q is falling on the plane? Then we know force F is equal to ma, and this force we have just seen the formula is minus q squared upon 4 pi epsilon naught into distance is 2z, the whole I'm just taking the distance as z here, is equal to m, velocity will be dv by dt. Multiply by velocity on both sides and we'll have here minus q square upon 16 pi epsilon naught z square, velocity will be dz by dt is equal to m dv by dt into v. This can be written as q squared upon 8 pi epsilon naught d by dt of 1 by z, because d by dt of 1 by z is minus 1 by z square dz. I am taking this m on this side and I am taking 2 from here into this side, so we'll have m here and we'll have here d by dt of v square. V square will be 2v dv by dt. Now we'll do integration on both sides and I'll get v squared is equal to q squared upon 8 pi epsilon naught m into 1 by z plus some constant c. This is the velocity. Now to find the constant c, we know at when the distance z is d, the velocity initially is 0. Putting that here, then solving, we'll get v squared will be equal to q squared upon 8 pi epsilon naught m 1 by z minus 1 by d, that is v squared. So obviously v will be root of all this thing. This is the velocity of charge q which is falling towards the plane. And if we want to find the time taken by the charge to hit the plane, for that here this v can be written as dz by dt, and then again we'll have this entire thing here, and then you can substitute z is equal to d sine squared theta and solve it to get the value of t, that will be the time taken. T will come out to be 2 pi cube epsilon naught m d cube the whole root divided by charge q. Now some important points here are, now in that region which was where we had this conducting plane, instead if we had a dielectric material, there, then the induced charge q dash, which will be induced below at a distance, if initially the charge is at q at a distance a, then the charge q dash will be induced at a distance minus a, and this again let is a in the a below the region, below the plane, where q dash will be equal to epsilon r minus 1 upon epsilon r plus 1 into q minus q. Second, if instead of dielectric we had a conductor there, that is the entire region is filled with a conductor, then q dash will be equal to minus q, and this minus q will be induced at a region a below that surface. Third, let's say we had a conducting sphere. Now let's say this is origin and we have a charge q which is placed at a distance a, and the radius of this spherical conductor is r, and again it is grounded, so the potential is equal to 0. Then here the charge induced will be equal to, that is the image charge will be minus r by a into q, and the distance at which it is induced, let's call this x, this distance is distance from the center, which this will be equal to r squared upon a. And the fourth point is, if we had semi-infinite grounded conducting planes, okay, let's call like this, both are grounded and making an angle theta with each other, and we had a charge q, let's say, placed somewhere in this region, then the number of image charges will be given by the formula, n will be equal to 360 upon theta minus 1. I am leaving you with a question. A point charge q is placed symmetrically at a distance d from two perpendicularly placed grounded conducting infinite planes. These are the two planes. Find the net force on this charge q. Try to find the answer. We'll solve it in the next video. Peace be upon you.